I'm Sharon Tracy Del Bay, Moorish American National.
Because when it's time to take actions, actions going to have to be taken.
We claimed our independence 1776.
I and all Moorish American nationals.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Crazy Comments. I guess you could say part 2, or 2. But this one's a special one, with permission of Mr. Degen. He gave me permission to use this because, well, I put in my 2 cents in, and, well, the guy proceeded to argue with me. Now, I did learn just a little bit, because, you know, I got called out to do my research, so I did. And I did learn a little, but I think also there's some stuff they're neglecting to tell. And you know, here I bring you the facts to the best of my ability. But I'll admit when I'm wrong, if they can prove I'm wrong, within the confines of, you know, the law. And on a side note, instead of making 10 million zines, I grouped them together. So, we're going to go down each one. So let's get started. So here's where it starts. Nagabay, I'm going to say. I don't agree with his antics, but you clearly have no knowledge of true Americans are. I'll give you a pointer. Noah Webster's 1828 definition of America. Look that up. Peace. Well, Mr. Bay, or Nagabay, guess what? We don't live in the 1800s. We live in the present. And what is the... Actually, you know, I'm not going to get into that just yet. Degen makes a very good point. A native or citizen of the United States is the true definition. He's saying Degen is wrong. American noun native of America originally applied to the aboriginals, copper-colored races found by the Europeans, now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. You're most welcome. Well, let's take, you know, a look at what the definition of an American is. Relating or characteristic of a United States or its inhabitants. Relating or denoting continents of America. And as a noun, a native or citizen of the United States, or a native or an inhabitant of any North, South, or Central American countries. Also English as it is used in the United States, American English. So, me and Degen are actually correct. The present definition is, yes, a native or citizen of the United States. So, sorry, Mr. Bay, quit living in the 1800s, dude. And, as Degen says, you're right up until the date of the dictionary. A lot more accurate than the one from the 1800s. Stop being a sob-say. And, of course, he replies, you know, I'm not a sovereign citizen. It's an oxymoron, and it shows how much you pretend to know. By the way, look, who looks at new dictionaries for true meanings? Well, Mr. Nagabay, just like countries and laws, as the country grows, they change. Guess what? So do words in a dictionary. That's why you guys always used outdated material, because that's the only way to prove your bloody point. And of course, you know, our lovely Degen makes his comment here. American, or importantly, you're not Aboriginal, and we're going to get back to that. The only Aboriginals are Native Americans, and you're African American. Now, before I get into that actual definition, for the record, on the record, well, guess what, Mr. Bay? Social media is not on the record, dumbass. I'm a white Moorish American national indigenous to this land. I am your god, whether you know it or not. Well, one, you're not a god. You're not our god. I know Mr. Vilified Freedom would love to have words with you on that one. And second, you're not a white Moorish American. You're an African American Moorish American. Not white. Sorry. Quit thinking you're white. So let's go to the next section. Of course, our Mr. Degen is there's no such thing, stop being brainwashed, unless you're Native American, you are indigenous to this land. Smarten up, Softard. Of course, he says Native and indigenous are two different words with two different meanings. Do you study etymology? I am brainwashed, you're just plain dumb. Actually, you are brainwashed, dude. But you know what? Let's see if there is black Native Americans. Now, according to Wiki, black Indians are Native American people defined as Native American due to being affiliated with Native American communities and being culturally Native American, who has some significant African American heritage. Many indigenous people of the eastern woodlands, such as the Narragansett, sorry to Native Americans if I say this wrong, Puat, Wumpang, and Sneekok, as well as people from nations historically from the southeast, just as the Coca, Creek, and Cherokee, have significant degree of African and often European ancestry as well. Historically, certain Native American tribes have close relations with African Americans, especially in regions where slavery was prevalent or where free people of color have historically resided. Members of the 5 civilized tribes participated in holding enslaved African Americans in the southeast, and some formerly enslaved people migrated with them to the west on the Trail of Tears in 1830. Later, during the period of Indian removal peace treaties with the U.S. after the American Civil War, and slaveholding tribes which had sided with the Confederacy were required to emancipate slaves and give them full citizenship rights in their nations. In controversial actions in the late 20th century, the Cherokee, Creek, and Seminole regions tightened their rules for membership and times excluded freedmen who did not have at least one ancestor listed as Native American. In the 20th century, Dawes rules, this exclusion was later appealed in courts, both because the treaty conditions and some cases because of possible inaccuracies in some of the rules. The Chickasaw Nation never extended citizenship to Chickasaw freedmen. So yes, there were some African Americans that were adopted into the tribes. Still does not make you indigenous. And funny how, in our current times, a lot of the Confederate history is being removed. Do I agree with what the Confederates did? No. But it's still history. But the Native American tribes took slaves as well, guys. That's something the Soviets are probably not teaching. Black and white. There it is. This is at the point I stepped in, guys. So I basically told him quit living in the 1800s and get back to reality, which is 2020. Yes, I did spell witch wrong. I never said I was a great speller. But at least I'm not living in a fantasy land. And of course, that's all he could come up with is, hey, I need to learn to spell. And then proceeds to say, by the way, who looks at new dictionaries for true meanings? Well, guess what? They're the meanings. You can try to say they're true all you want, but yeah. Dancing Queen steps in. Do you understand that there's a lot of African Americans who have native blood? Yes, I just proved that. Some. But still, prove it. You can make the claim all you want. A lot of you guys can. But can you prove it? Is what we're saying. Which is what I called him out on. Can you prove it with the DNA test? Prove you have it. And then you have... Then I'll even back off on that. And, our lovely Degen steps in at that point. We already know they can't. Or will refuse to. Mr. Bay replies to my comment. Can you prove your kind wasn't created in a laboratory? Yeah, I pretty much can. But, I was being a smartass. I asked him, can you? Because I was born from my mother, not a lab. Thus, you're just your goober being a smartass. But you'll see my true reply later. So, he calls me evading, but a good answer. So I said, alright, you want a real answer? And here's my real answer. The technology doesn't exist to create us. We can't even properly clone correctly, and this is in our current century. And a bipedal species or cavemen, roughly 400,000 years ago, the technology didn't even exist then. So, yes, I've already proved my point. I will say this. The only remotely possible place, and this is so remote, guys, because we don't know, because we can't find it, is Atlantis. It is rumored that they were highly, highly advanced. Whether it was technology, like, present day or futuristic technology for us, or if it was just meaning technology of that time. But since we can't find Atlantis, there's no way of knowing. So, on scientific evidence that technology did not exist then, it doesn't even exist now. So, yes, we were not born in a lab. Our dancing queen says, watch African American DNA test. Look at your own country's history. Some of you white folks have native blood. So what makes you think black people can't? I didn't question that black people can't. I've just proven that they do. But do I believe that it's to the extent you're trying to make it out to be, as an extremely large amount of you? I doubt that, unless you have scientific data to back it up, which you have yet to present. And that's what I called him out on. You obviously don't know about the history of the people in your own country. Do some research. I did. And I know quite a bit about U.S. history because that was one of my top subjects in high school. And then I got called by Dancing Queen, am I dumb or are you dumb? The evidence is in the science of DNA and the history of this country. A simple Google search will answer your questions and explain it better than I can. I don't know why you can't fathom Native Americans having Native ancestry. There are so many tribes that would be considered black. Now, that last sentence, I am going to question. I just proved not too long ago that, yes, African Americans can have some degree of Native American history. Do I believe it is not in, my head's already starting to hurt just from making this video and reading these comments back. Where Mr. Embra said Morocco is in Africa, not India. I don't know where exactly he got that from. Then our lovely Omega Gamer. Dance Queen, you're debating the question and deflecting. A simple Google search does not prove what you're claiming to be right. A simple Google search will make your claims invalid as proof evidence otherwise exists. Even so, I don't believe Goober's saying that it's not possible for them not to have Native American history to some degree. Thank you. Just to the degree of what them claim to be complete or Aboriginal or indigenous. Thank you, Omega Gamer, for clarifying that, which is 100% accurate. Moors are not native to America. Yes, they are not. Native Americans are, and yes, roughly around the time of the Civil War is when they started getting brought into the tribes. So again, the true Aboriginals are Native Americans. In your own words, a simple Google search will answer your questions and explain it better than I can. A simple Google search will disprove the more subsets and the basis of their claims. Also true. He's responding to backing me up. I wasn't evading. You're making a claim and pushing the burden of proof on him. That's not how it works. And I agree. Mr. Bay is making the claim. He needs to back it up. He doesn't have to prove to you that he was made in a lab, as you claim. You have to prove it to him. You're making the equivalence of asking him to prove that he has a pink elephant with wings as his pet. How can you prove to you it doesn't exist when you say it needed? Yeah. So he's basically they want me to prove what they're claiming, but they don't want to produce the proof. Much like the Moore subsets and their baseless claims that can be simply disproven with historical records, congressional records, and simple world history and genealogy. Mic drop. You're talking about the Dance Queen, and this is where I cut it off to make the video, guys. You're talking about something completely different, as I was talking on the base of wearing a headdress. Because these commenters are going on like black people cannot be native, when there are tribes of black and native to America. There are African Americans within the tribes, but not tribes. And again, you're not native to America. I've already established that. You and me both don't know their ancestry. I'm explaining that black people can be native as well. You can be native to the tribe maybe, but to America, no. Which a quick Google search will show that I am right on that claim. I wasn't even talking about Moors. So, let's get on the whole thing about the headdress, guys. Because, yes, I do believe innocence, the individual in the video, and I will put a link down in the description of the video that DGen did. But let's take a look at the significance of a Native American headdress. Now, according to Tribal Trade here, the significance of a Native American headdress. If you are looking to find out the real significance of a Native American headdress is to the indigenous people, again, they are indigenous Native Americans, but not African Americans. Sorry, you were adopted into the tribes during the Civil War, not hundreds of thousands of years ago, unless you can prove that. There are the top 5 important points of the meaning for the headdress. You can confidently share this knowledge with your friends and family, avoid offending anyone, and help others be respectful to indigenous people. Indigenous Native Americans. Yes. What exactly is a headdress? A Native American headdress is a piece of feathers that are attached to the entire top edge of a leather headband. The headband can be embellished with beadwork or natural leather. The feathers on the headdress are typically used from a fallen bird that is indigenous to the local area of the tribe making the headdress. The feathers are held together with leather thread or sinew. Can be designed in many different ways depending on how the artist wants the headdress to look. It is important to note that there are actually many different types of headdresses that have different styles and are from different areas of the Turtle Land. It is believed the Sioux were the first tribes to wear the feather headdress. So why is the headdress so important, guys? The Native American headdress is a well-known symbol of strength, bravery to the indigenous people of North America. Just that first part. The Native American headdress is a well-known symbol of strength and bravery. Now, you Sobsits are not showing symbol of strength or bravery. We'll expand this. Headdresses are important because they have been worn by the most powerful and influential members of the tribe. So if you are a part of a tribe, again, powerful and influential members of the tribe. We'll expand on this later, but headdresses are not made in one day. They take a very long process, and the process itself displays how meaningful and important it is for the person who's earned it. Now, the person in this video, do I believe he has earned the right to wear it? No. Another reason for the importance of the headdress is that not only is it the greatest honor to wear one of these beautiful pieces of art, but be able to be a close friend, brave warrior, or chief who is making the headdress is also an incredible honor. Now that you know why the headdress is important, let's move to actually how it's made. But again, the individual in this video, to me, especially after reading this, has not met a single criteria that is stated in this article. So when I say it's an insult to Native Americans, it is an insult. Just because he might have some Native American DNA in him does not give him the right to wear the headdress. That is for a tribe to do. Not for him just to go buy one off eBay or Amazon just to say he's Native American. That is actually, to me, one of the highest insults to Native Americans. Hope you guys liked this video. Sorry it was a little long, but have a wonderful day.